Hello, Steve89. Well, something interesting happened with the Muppet Babies. I never thought I'd be doing a video on the Muppet Babies going to court. But yes, the Muppet Babies are going to court. The creator of the Muppet Babies, Jeffrey Scott, is suing Disney. Now, this is not a shock because, Disney doesn't have a good reputation at the moment, and for a lot of drama in that. Now, some people say it's all haters, but I'm seeing a lot of proof of some of this, so I'm not totally surprised. But basically, and this in a big way is just how Hollywood does things. So Disney used to have a reputation for being different from the other Hollywood productions, that they were all about family and just caring and, everyone having a magical experience, pixie dust everywhere. But yeah, the people running the show pretty much are just running it like Hollywood now. So basically, he's got a 4-claim complaint in federal court. Basically, Disney Junior and Disney Channel were rebooted in 2018, and they wanted to do a Muppet Babies TV show. Now, if you don't know the Muppet Babies were featured in the, I think, 1983 feature film Muppets Take Manhattan, and then they spun that out to, which was live action, to a cartoon series. And it wasn't really for kids. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I was about to watch it, actually, because I haven't watched it for a long time, and I have every episode, and I wanted to sit down and actually watch them because I only just had the memories of watching them when I was a kid. And it was very much written, simple enough so kids can understand, but it was also written for adults, so you can watch it as an adult and enjoy it. And I think that's why some of these shows, and a lot of shows in the 80s were done like this, where the adults could watch the show as well as the kids, and then as the kids grew up, they could still watch the shows and not suddenly feel condescended to because they were written for kids and talking down to kids, which unfortunately most of the shows produced for kids now are done by design, by age specifics, and it's just really ridiculous because if they did anything too adult for kids, it just went over their heads and the adults could laugh at it, and then you would get it later when you're older and sort of. They had a lot of pop references. The show basically features the kids using their imagination, and they'd use a lot of film clips, scenes from movies and stuff, and a lot of pop culture references and things, and it was just a lot of fun, and I really liked it, and I think it still holds up. I'm going to rewatch them again because I really want to see how well they do hold up, because I'm finding a lot of the old shows from the 80s really do hold up and the new shows don't. So all that aside, basically the creator was given at least a verbal contract that he would be consulted and involved in any future use of the Muppet Babies and the characters he created. And this was upheld by the Jim Henson Company, and then when they sold all the characters. I didn't know this. In 2000, the Henson Company sold basically all the characters, which I think included the Muppet Babies because they were created for the film in live action. But then there was the animated version, so there might be some copyright issues there, to a company called EMTV, and then they brought it back for $78 million. They sold it for $680 million. These people didn't do very well with it, and they bought it back for $78 million. Or the Muppet side, they didn't buy the Sesame Street characters. They bought back the Muppets, and then they resold it to Disney for, I think I heard $300 million or something like that. And Disney has not done a good job of managing it. They've done a couple of shows. They had one good movie, but and this is a problem which is happening. So this is bigger than just this case, but there is a problem with TV was in its infancies in the 50s, 40s and 50s and into the 60s. And from the 60s into the 70s and 80s, there are a lot of shows that were created, a lot of things that were established that were new and really good. And unfortunately, most of these things have now become, because people have died or retired, they've changed hands, and they're all considered IP and licenses. They don't really have the authentic voice, as someone said, of the original creators. It happened with Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry died, and then Paramount really got control of Star Trek, and it went downhill from then with Deep Space Nine. And it's happened with other things. George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney. The Muppets, Jim Henson Company sold it. And all these creations, these great shows, which had their own unique voices and flavour and tone were all sold just as IP, as business things, business models, business just opportunities to make money from these corporations, these businesses who don't know how to handle them artistically. They just think they can just buy them and produce more, and people will just buy it up and lap it up, even if it's not, loyal to the original content, the original show, the original flavour, the original tone, all these elements, the original themes, all these things. And this happened to the Muppets. And so they didn't do a very good job. They weren't doing very well. They had a live action, park thing, a show or a land or something in Disneyland. That was closed down. Apparently it was okay, and they were hoping to open it up again. But, so the whole thing is a debacle overall. But what happened here was the producers, Joe D'Ambrosia and Alicia Cooper Sapphire, I think that's how you say the name, they brought him in to consult him because he's supposed to be consulted. He's supposed to be involved in it's his characters, his creation. They're his babies, literally his babies. And they're supposed to work with him on this because he owns them, or he has some artistic or moral right to them that was given to him when he created them. But they just brought him in, tapped his brain for ideas with no intention of using him or paying him or having him involved, and then went off and made the show. They already had hired a creative team to create the show. They just wanted to get ideas out of him. So they just brought him in, allegedly brought him in, took his ideas basically and used them without his consent. So he's suing. And this is not the first time. This is something people do all the time. Kurtzman did it with Star Trek Discovery. He brought in Brian Fuller, who came in and he created 5 pictures and the idea of having an anthology show for the Star Trek series, and each year would be a different thing, so we got to see all the facets of the Federation. And then they just slowly stole all those ideas for seasons or half seasons of Discovery, where they were going to do a Mirror Universe series, so they went to the Mirror Universe for like half season 1. They had the Klingon War, which they were going to do for Axanar. They took that and used that for the first half of the season, and then sort of the end. The second season was going to be about Pike. There was going to be a season about Pike. There was going to be a season apparently dealing with the Federation pitch, where they were doing like an Andromeda-like future where the Federation has been destroyed or is bloated and has to be repaired, basically. I don't think it was totally destroyed, but they basically had to get back to... And this is a whole other story. So this sort of thing has happened before, where they bring someone in, they take their ideas, as they get ideas from them, talk to them, let them make pictures as though they're going to work with them, and then they take those ideas, change them a little bit, and then just say, oh, we were doing that anyway, that was just a coincidence. This is something Hollywood has been doing for a while, and I'm not surprised he's suing them. They were supposed to consult him with the structure, any change to the structure and the look of the new characters. He wants basically a developed for television credit. He wants to look at the books, see what money they made. He wants a percentage of that. I think he's entitled to all of it. I hope he gets it. And this is, like I said, a problem in Hollywood. We have all these great shows which have generational appeal, generational fans, people who grew up watching them and now watch them as adults and share them with their kids. He-Man, all these great 80s shows particularly, and some 70s, some 90s. There wasn't much in the 70s, and the 90s it kind of died, but the 80s was just this great period. And now all these shows are just now IPs for businessmen and studios, and they don't care. They need to get the original creators back, treat them with respect, pay them, allow them creative control, and then they will see the kind of profits and success that they saw from the originals. That's what they care about, but to get them, they have to make some considerations when working on these and developing these projects. So I saw just coincidentally, I saw some of the Muppet Babies like 2 days ago. There's a new character called Summer, who's a purple penguin. I don't know where the hell she came from. I guess she didn't join the Muppets later in life. And they had some of the other characters, because they're all basically in a nursery. It's sort of the same, except it's made for 4 to 7 year olds, and you can really tell. I didn't really get anything out of watching it as an adult, and I can't imagine any other adults watching it. And sure, maybe they'll put it on for 4 to 7 year olds, but then once those kids become 8, 9, 10, there's no more appeal. It's got such a short lifespan. It's so short-sighted. And then they wonder why these franchises aren't surviving. They went for 20, 30, 40 years on their own merits, and then these people come in and reboot them, change them, and then they suddenly die and don't have the kind of appeal they had, and then they wonder why. And a lot of the time they blame the fans and say, oh, the fans are toxic, or the fans aren't responding the right way, when it's the people managing them, the people buying the IPs and treating them like business, not creative endeavors. So hopefully Disney will be so scared by the lawsuit and the money it could cost them, because they are really struggling financially now because of they lived off the parks, and the parks are in trouble because of COVID. The cinemas are shut down, so they're not making money. So that the billions they spent on Fox's content, and before they destroyed Fox and totally dismantled it and made the content they bought kind of useless, they bought a studio and then took it apart instead of just running it and getting the money from it. And also Marvel, the money they spent on Marvel and Star Wars, they're not really getting that. They're not really getting that money back now. They're not really seeing a profit off that now because everything's shut down. So they're really struggling there to lend billions and billions of dollars a line of credit, because they spend all their money on acquiring new IP, because it's all about just acquiring IP and owning it. So they're in trouble. They may just sell, this was my point, they may just sell the Muppets back to the Henson Company, who did a brilliant job with The Dark Crystal. When they produced that themselves, it got cancelled by Netflix because it was expensive and they don't care about art, quality, appreciation, longevity. The fact people will be watching Dark Crystal Age of Innocence for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, just like the original. These new shows produced by these IP owners, no one's going to care about them in 2 years. Once they're no longer being marketed, they're going to be gone. So hopefully the Muppets will go back to the Jim Henson Company and we'll get a good show. They will get back to what they were before. But a lot of things are just going to die because the people who own the IPs, they're not going to see a profit. They're just going to ditch them, assume that they're worthless, blame the audience, blame the actual shows, that the characters or whatever, say they don't have appeal, not acknowledge they mismanaged them, and then they won't get another chance. That's what I'm afraid of. So here we go. We'll see how the Muppets go in court, Muppet Babies go in court, and we'll see if we have a change in Hollywood, because we had this big shift from the original owners to IPs mismanaged. Will we have a golden era where they go back to the owners, or the people who run the IPs, own the IPs and run the studios, realize they actually have to change their approach, and then they actually do, and we have success? Or will all these old great franchises just die out and be blamed for it? Blame the victim. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. If you like the Muppet Babies and you want to see them back, let's hope it happens. We had some good luck with the Addams Family. Tim Burton's going to be producing it and involved. So I'm a little optimistic. I do think these franchises can survive, because I think the people who just care about money will look back at the past and say, well, hopefully they'll blame the right people and say, we can go back to what that was and get that money. We want that money. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Because if that motivates them to get new artists involved and the artists manage it and take care of it, we can find a balance between business and show. That's why it's called show business. And I'm talking again. I talk too much. I'm going to go. Bye.